We've got 7,000 acres here. We're about 15 k's from Cunderdin. We've been on this farm for about 15, 20 years, and really it's a home, it's a business, it's a life. We've raised our children here. I choose to grow non-GM product and supply food to people who don't want genetically modified products in their food. We have a rotation, so we have some paddocks with lupins and some with wheat, some with canola, some with barley, and each year we swap those paddocks around.
We first found out that our neighbour decided to plant GM when he pulled me up on the fence line and said, "You're not going to be happy with me. I've planted a GM crop right on your boundary."
We're worried about possible contamination. We spoke to a neighbour about it.
We would have never planted non-GM canola in that paddock. We had this massive storm come with very strong winds, knocked all the seeds to the ground.
Then the rain came, a very heavy rain.
And the rain washed canola out of his paddock into ours.
So straight away I thought, this is a really bad situation.
They really didn't focus the testing on my land.
Because they had only found one positive test on the road and none in my property, they made it sound as if I was lying.
So the Ag Department spent an hour tops here, which, considering the size of canola seeds and the potential extent of contamination, wasn't a long time to determine if there were GM canola seeds in their paddock. So Greenpeace came out to support Ian and Jodi so they could do some of their own testing. We provided them with just the standard strip test kit for Roundup Ready canola.
We spent all afternoon testing on our property and down the road.
In the first day, Ian and Jodi got 13 positive tests. In the second day, they got 3 of 6 positives.
Where the water's washed?
Yeah, well, there's a heap here. We know we have a GM contamination issue on that paddock, and we know it's fairly extensive. It's shown me how easily that the contamination has occurred. It's going to be ongoing. It's going to be impossible for me to keep my farm from being covered in GM canola plants.
They're at risk of losing their non-GM premium for canola, which is between $40 and $60 a tonne this season in 2011. It means that they're responsible for all of the costs of clean-up on their land, and no one's there to help them.
I think there's going to be a lot of stressed relationships between neighbours.
It's never good in a small community having farmers fighting farmer.
Farmer versus farmer issue is something that's really hit home to me.
No other country in the world has been able to.
Canada's still doing it.
Canada's lost its market. It's lost the European market.
I think it's very sad what's happening in rural towns, and I've heard stories from lots of different towns, whether it's within families or between neighbours, or relationships just breaking down.
At the moment, all of the risk of GM has been shifted by the massive GM companies back down onto the individual farmers and growers. The solution that Greenpeace and a couple of other groups like the Network of Concerned Farmers is proposing is called farmer protection legislation. It takes the liability off the individual grower and puts it back up with the GM companies where it belongs.
I just want to carry on growing canola in a sustainable fashion, hold the markets we've got, because it's a great market, Europe, it's a huge market, and I don't want to lose it.
All of the independent polling shows that the majority of people don't want to eat GM food. 90% want it labelled so that they have a choice. That's mainly because it's never been proven safe to eat.
So that means that my consumers, they're going to have a very hard time to find food which is not contaminated with GM.
People can really make a difference by demanding farmer protection legislation and supporting farmers like Ian and Jodi James.
I think our generation of farmers need to think long and hard about the GM question. GM canola and GM in general could be the biggest mistake that we leave for our children. They could be dealing with it for years to come.